Yo, 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 what's up, all you burners, stoners, and potheads, and especially all you gardeners out there? This is Mr. Weedman and Big Earl with the Weedman 420 Chronicles, the Grow Hour. What's up, Big Earl? How you doing, my brother?
What's up, man? I am doing really well. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. You want to know why?
Tell me.
Because I'm going to smoke some GG4 tonight with my best bud, Big Earl. And we have a special guest with the Burpin the Bag episode, Rachel from Deep Roots. Rachel, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Oh, glad to have you back on. I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. We're super stoked to have you back on the show for this Burp in the Bag episode. Just so everybody knows what this Burp in the Bag episode is, we do an original episode with a hot topic, with a guest we bring on, and then we bring them back on for Burp in the Bag. And that is their topic that they get to choose and talk about. It could be anything they want to talk about. Go back into more of the last episode we had them on, or pick a totally new topic. So this is Rachel's from Deep Roots Burp in the Bag episode. Welcome back, and we're super stoked to have you.
It's good to be back. Nice to see you guys again. Thank you.
We loved the last episode that you were on talking about the hot virus, and it was very special, especially that we were doing some talks about that, and we're super stoked. And we're going to touch on that a little bit later, but we're here right now to smoke, and Rachel's going to smoke at the end with us. But you know that Big Earl and I got to do our thing. We got to have our smoke sets before we start. So I'm smoking in honor of Big Earl, because I always got to honor my guy when we do a show. So I'm smoking GG4. Earl, tell a little bit about this fucking strain.
GG4 very famous. A stretcher doesn't stop growing until week 7. So if you're getting your hands on it, the real one, if it stops growing week 3, you got the wrong one. Doesn't stop growing until week 7, week 8. It's unmatched terps, in my opinion. There's nothing else really like it. It's super terpy. Grows very easily, even though it's like long and lanky. I always tell people it's one of those plants you can throw in the back of your toilet. As long as you're getting fresh water every now and again, the shit's going to grow, you know. It's a really nice plant. But it did, you know, when you're talking about breeding with it, it did come from hermed parents. So watch out for that in the lineage.
It is a phenomenal strain. The taste, the flavor. I even cleaned my bowl yesterday just to smoke this freshie on the show. So, I mean, I try to clean my bowl once a week, but this was a special occasion. I got to make sure when I love smoking this strain out of a joint, but out of the bowl, I always got to have a clean bowl when I smoke this strain because I want all the flavors. So, what are you smoking on, my brother?
Nightmare OG.
Oh,
Nightmare OG. Finishing her up.
I still got, I think, 1 or 2 nugs left of that from when you brought it by.
Yes, I like it a lot.
It's sweet. It's such a nice strain. And you've been doing some fucking work, man. You got some trimming going on the last couple of times we talked, man. You've been a busy little beaver.
We've been doing some stuff over here, man. Got trimming and new seeds and all kinds of stuff. But it's fun.
Nice. And Rachel, what are you gonna smoke when we do our smoke sesh towards the end there?
I have one of these crosses Earl made with this orange strain he had. I'm not even
Orange
sure
Soul,
the actual
from Trichome. It's a great
what did you think of the smell, the nose on that, Rachel?
It was so good. I love that citrus smell. It was just amazing. Yeah, and the structure was really nice. It was just really, you could tell he did a really good job growing it. So it's definitely my favorite of the pack I got.
It smells like orange blossoms to me, like going in a Florida orange patch, and just when they're blossoming, it just has that fragrance that when you open the jar up, you just smell it for days. It's just such a good smell. Like, it's like I always say, you know, the terpenes is like you follow your nose. It always knows what you like, and when you open that up and you smell that. We were having a talk not too long ago too about tangy flavors and orange flavors, Earl, and I think you were saying like it's not like people don't want it. Like, people aren't looking for that smell anymore. Exactly, Rachel. What you just, me too.
It's not so much the smell; it's the look. A lot of the orange. So the big thing with that Orange Soul, particularly the number 4 that you had, it has that lavender hue to it. First off, it was the best plant, but it has this lavender hue to it. Most orange flavored plants they finish like this, like light yellow, light green. Colors that people aren't wanting in their plants. They want darker plants. They want to see the purples, preferably, for sure. I'm not saying I agree with this. I'm just telling you my experience with the industry. Purple is number 1. You can sell a purple weed that doesn't have that great of a smell faster than a light yellow weed with a great smell, or a light green weed with a great smell. And some plants just finish like that. A lot of the orange flavored plants finish like that.
But it's just so nice. I mean, the smell, I mean, you just open it up and the fragrance you get from that. If your body doesn't respond to that, then you have a smell issue. So you need to go get those olfactory glands fixed. That's the only thing that works for me.
Yeah, it was good.
It's such a great plant.
With Trichome. All the ladies I got from that Orange Soul were very orange. And it was not hard to make an F2 that was very orange.
Nice. Well, I'm looking forward to doing the smoke session with Rachel at the end of the show then, so we could see her face and her nose when she takes a good rip off that joint she's got. Rachel, it's great to have you back. And we got a whole different episode for everybody on this one. And this is we're going to be talking about natural and holistic remedies and mushrooms, and not maybe the ones you trip on too, but we're going to talk about weed too. We're going to talk about the plant. We're going to talk a little about everything on here, a little bit of just holistic lifestyle. And I believe in that. That's what I try to practice every day. I don't really practice Western medicine that much, unless I'm dying and I need to go, like I lost an arm or something. Or
that is what Western medicine shines at.
Yeah, it's great. They're amazing. They're the best. There's nothing better than that. But when it comes to natural healing, like if I have a cold, I'm not taking cold medicine. I'm doing my lemon and ginger and cinnamon and honey in warm water. And as my dad taught me back in the day, if that doesn't work, just do a hot toddy and you'll be just good. Why not? A little hot toddy. Back when I was a kid, the kids had a cold. They put a little whiskey on a noo-noo when you had a toothache, and they just rubbed it on. They killed it. You have to go they didn't go to the dentist and paying a couple $100 back in the 70s. No one had any money back then, so they just dumped on the noo-noo. If you don't know what a binky, whatever the hell you want to call it, you just rub it on their gum, and it numbs you up, and you're done. Then the kid's drunk and he's out. So, but I do believe, and we've talked about this after the last episode when we were off air. I talked about the natural remedies I love to do and everything I take every day to keep healthy and to keep my immunity system built, and antioxidants and all the good stuff you get from herbs and plants and seeds and everything you can get. So I'm super stoked to hear your opinion on this. So first and foremost, got a basic intro last time, right? So can you give us a little more detail on your experience in the pharmaceutical world, the pharmacy world, or even specifically some of your medical research experience, and then some holistic training, healing? And I'm really super stoked about hearing this. So I'm going to let you talk while I smoke some more.
Okay. Yeah. So I feel like I grew up at a really interesting time in the world for this kind of stuff. So my first experience with like natural medicine, I was in high school, my 10th grade year, and my chemistry teacher, everyone called her the witch doctor. And she went to a naturopathic school in Mexico, and she knew all these natural remedies, and she blew my mind. I was a goalkeeper in soccer, and I would jam my fingers and they would get so swollen I couldn't bend them. And she saw my finger swollen and just like went to her back room and came back with this little vial, and the solution, I would rub it on my fingers and the swelling would be gone instantly. And she did like a lot of things like that. The kids at the school knew like she would help us with different things, or, these things. So it was 1 year that I had her, and she was my chemistry teacher, not like my naturopathic doctor teacher or anything. So, I went on, and then I had the opportunity to work in a pharmacy, after that year. So I was in 11th grade working in a pharmacy part-time, because most adults don't want to work like 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. So I got this job in a local pharmacy, and where I learned, the pharmacist told me the only thing that matters is double-blind, placebo-controlled studies, and all this stuff is hoodoo voodoo, and like it's all placebo effect. All this, everything you see is placebo effect. And, to kind of validate that, I saw a lot of people coming and trying different herbal remedies, trying echinacea, trying these things. And at that point in time, herbal remedies had grown in popularity, but in the way that companies, I think, were just trying to massively profit off of a name of an herb. And so you'd get like capsules of echinacea, and, who knows what part of the plant it was, when it was harvested, how it was harvested, if it was even echinacea at all. It was such a hodgepodge. So of course none of these things are going to work. It'd be like if someone told you could get high if you smoked cannabis root. You know what I mean? It's like, that's not exactly how it works. Or like the veg plant.
Yeah.
You have to know. when to harvest and what part of the plant to harvest if you're going to be using plants, right? It's important.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna grind up some roots when I get done with this because I just got done growing. So I'm gonna grind up some roots and try to. I might snort it instead.
See what happens. We might unlock something.
But I was basically told, this just isn't the way to, this none of this stuff has any value. It's all kind of like this historic stuff that we did, but we've moved away from it. It has no value. And then, I started going into, science and these other things. I was heavy into the environment, and that's how I got into science. I just wanted to go into environmental law, and I ended up getting into the science. And so that's how I ended up in the science degree. And, at that point in time, I was very heavily focused in molecular biology. Everything has a specific path. There's a protein that does something. There's an enzyme here that does something. There's this molecular machinery that does something. And if we can figure out how to alter that one pathway, we can drastically affect how something works. And that's kind of like where we are now in terms of medicine. We want one patentable molecule that can have one specific action that we can control, manufacture, patent, and profit off of, because at the end of the day, it's not cheap to run all these trials to find out if a new molecule is safe. So it has to be financially viable. And unfortunately, I think where that has gotten us is to the point where we've completely ignored the fact that we sent out so many scientists out into nature to find these molecules, out into the Amazon, out into all these different parts of the world to find these individual molecules that might hold some miracle cure for us. And I think when we did that, we said, oh, well, there isn't this one molecule that holds the magical cure for us, so therefore there's no magical cure, instead of, well, maybe plants don't work like that. Maybe we can't take one thing out and expect the plant to still work the same way, like cannabis. I mean, I think the reason that we've studied it so intensely for so long is because THC. And now, as a result of us studying THC so intensely and the plant kind of lending itself to human cultivation by having that particular molecule, we've learned there are so many other molecules in that plant. Now that we can talk about it and say, well, I had this effect from this plant. Well, you had that effect from this plant. And we're seeing
just like the GG4 right now, I'm having a real big effect right now.
Multiple molecules.
Baked.
And I think the real reason that it became so important for me was because I realized, with being in medical research, so I got did a lot of plant biology work at Eastern Michigan. I got my degree, and I realized I didn't want to work for a company that was going to patent plants and put farmers out of business. I didn't want to work my whole life to patent a molecule that people wouldn't be able to afford, or potentially they would be able to afford it somehow and it would give them more side effects, because that's what I was seeing when I was working in the pharmacy. People would start out with one medication. They'd start out with a beta blocker because they were having heart problems, and now their cholesterol's all over the place. So now they're, on statins, and, and it was just like one thing after the other. And then you see these people and they're getting these lunch bag size monthly packages of pills and medicine. And it's like, wait a second, if this is supposed to be making us better, why does it seem like the more medicine people are taking, the more sick they're getting, and
because one pill does one thing, but it also affects your body around everything else. So they give you a pill to take care of this, to take care of that, because this pill gives you heartburn, but also might give you migraine. So you got to take this migraine medicine, you got to take this heartburn medicine, you got to take that, because this one pill leads to 5 different problems, but only solving one.
Exactly.
That's the problem with the pharmaceutical industry today.
Yeah. And even bigger than that, I read a study unfortunately, it came from Calcutta, India, because I don't think people here are even motivated to put out a study like this. But I mean, they were just kind of talking about the emerging therapeutics of different fungal organisms. And they pointed out the statistic that 90% of our medicines come from plants and fungus, and you look at aspirin, penicillin, all these things, different, breast cancer drugs, all these things come from plant medicines ultimately, but we're taking one thing out of the plant, which is what we did with cannabis. We said, okay, here's THC. So this is cannabis, this is THC. And I think people realized quickly, THC wasn't working the same way as a whole plant medicine of cannabis was.
Oh,
there's angels in those leaves though too. People forget about that. I say that a lot. There's a lot of angels in those cannabis leaves for healing. It's a healing plant.
That's exactly it. There's
a healing
so
plant.
many terpenes and triterpenes and just different structures of these things that are so incredibly beneficial to people.
Yeah. Flavonoids and just all the other different cannabinoids that I love. Just the whole plant. When I first met Big Earl, we were sitting in his house getting baked, and I said, the person or the grower or the next person that can create a plant that can give you all the cannabinoids in a good ratio, or be able to pick and choose to grow certain cannabinoids for a patient, is going to win this race. That is the next phase. THC is great. I smoke it every day. There's a reason why I smoke it every day. But I also like to take other cannabinoids, and I wish more plants had more. The mother of all cannabinoids, CBG, the CBC of the world. I don't need THCV because I don't need to lose weight. I don't need to stop me. I don't get the munchies anyway. So I don't want that in my plant. But I also want certain terpenes that I truly like. Like I like myrcene, phenomenal. I like linalool. Lavender is good for I love smelling fresh pines, but that's more for my day weed, so I want something that's catered to what my endocannabinoid system wants and needs, also for the entourage effect that I truly believe in. And I want something custom to me. So the grower that can do that in the next round of what we're going to see here, probably in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, to where not only you'll see buds being grown that way, but breeders are going to be making seeds that way. And you're going to be able to grow heavier cannabinoids that you want, or specific terpenes. It's going to happen. Is it going to be synthetically done? I don't think so. I think breeders are going to say, okay, it's time for the next phase, and I'm going to outdo the corporate cannabis people that are only focusing on 35, 40% THC because that's what the public wants, right? Yeah. So this is the next race. And I've stressed this to Earl. Like, dude, if you can do this, I'm your guy. I'm your tester.
You guys should talk to Ben and Aaron from Tang Farms. They're working with Cannalytics somehow on basically converting all of that information that patients put in, to Leafly and other data points about, this strain gave me these effects. And so what they're trying to do is pair different effects of different terpenes and cannabinoids with the actual effects the patient has, and be predictive in terms of, well, this strain tested with these different, terpenes and cannabinoid profiles. And so we predict that it will have this kind of an effect on the patient, and being able to match the cannabis really well to you. And I'm really excited because I think they're doing really great work with that. But then I also think it'll be cool because I do think what you guys are saying, the next part of this is going to be to map out those genes, those cannabinoid synthase genes. I mean, we have the THA synthase and the CBD synthase, and we have a pretty good understanding of like most of those genes. There's like leakiness of some of the synthase genes and things like that. But aside from that, like we don't have all of them figured out in terms of all of those other terpenes and cannabinoids. So it would be really interesting to see if we could genetically profile out, before, while something was a young plant, what the terpene profile would be, or what the cannabinoid profile would be.
Yeah.
Connecting a genetic like sequence or something. Is that how we do that?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I got a question to go back because I didn't want to stop you. You're on a really good roll. The placebo effect. And when you see them do testing on giving somebody something that's it, and then something that's just sugar water or just a capsule with nothing in it. Mm-hmm. The crazy thing about the placebo effect is, to what I've read about and learned and just researched on my own, is the mind is so powerful to when you make somebody believe that that's actually in there and it's going to do this for them. Your mind is so powerful. The next thing you know, that person's healed. And I've truly always believed that, because I've talked sickness out of my body, and you can make fun of me all you fucking want out there in the world. I don't care, because I believe the mind is so powerful that you can control a lot with it. And I've controlled a lot of healing through the power of my mind and speaking stuff to heal myself. And I don't care if it's my body. I'm fucking 50 years old, and I've never been I've never had an illness that I needed to go to the hospital for. I got in accidents. That's a different story. but never to like where I had to worry about my health to where I needed help or take a pill. Because the power of the spoken word and the power of the mind. Do you ever, now that you're talking about holistic healing and medicine, do you find that like true, or am I fucking talking out of my other hole?
I mean, I think the data has shown that that's true. You know, I mean, what we see is, you know, people who have a lot of trauma, it tends to be linked with higher rates of asthma. You know what I mean? Like there's real connections between someone's physical manifestation in life, you know, how much stress they have, you know, if someone's being abusive towards them, and how they actually fare physically. You know, I mean, and it goes back to all the self-talk, you know, like if you believe you can't, you won't. You know, I mean, I think that's where it all starts. You know what I mean? And that being said, you know, I'm not saying, you know, if you're exposed to Agent Orange, if you just think good thoughts, happy thoughts, you're going to be okay.
That's a different story.
That's a different story.
100%. Yeah.
And I don't want to, you know, say if we just, you know, think good thoughts, we're going to be okay. Because, I mean, we are fighting some of the toughest battles of the world right now. You know, we have forever chemicals in our water and our meat and our food.
45% of all the water in this fucking country is poisoned. Poisoned. Fucking poisoned.
You need to watch the Vice documentary on PFAS, forever chemicals, and agriculture. It's horrifying. It's absolutely horrifying because, you know, these companies were using these wastewater treatment plants had to get rid of their biosolids somehow. And the EPA and, you know, American government said, well, this is safe for farmers to put on their fields. And so farmers started putting all this waste on their fields. But the problem is these municipal wastewater plants are not equipped to remove some of these chemicals, and the different, you know, commercial and industrial applications were not properly removing these things. So they end up in these solids, and then farmers are putting these all over their fields to fertilize their plants. So then these plants are either going to, you know, the shelf to your grocery store, or they're going to feed animals. And again, these are bioaccumulative molecules. So these molecules are accumulating inside your beef, inside your chicken, by them eating these plants. I mean, we're fighting all of these battles. So we need to be honestly looking into every molecule that's going to help support our health and help, you know, our detox functions and help our liver and help our kidneys, because it is everywhere.
I love it. This is my kind of talk. Now, I love talking cannabis. I mean, I could talk cannabis all day long, but I've done nothing but my whole life study personal training, holistic medicine, and all I ever do is read about, besides cannabis, it's probably the next other thing I read the most about, and how to heal your body. And, you know, what you just said is so true. I mean, your body, you need three things to survive in this life. 3. Air is number 1. You can only live a couple minutes without it, right? Mm-hmm. Water, number 2, right? You can go about 15, 14 days if you're healthy, maybe without it. And then food. You can go about 30 to 45 days without food, depending how much body fat you have and how strong your will is to survive. And we've ruined all 3 of them.
Yeah.
You can't take anything else. I can't eat gold. I can't eat a fucking dollar bill. No. Money doesn't mean shit when you can't fucking feed people and you can't have water and you can't have air. None of that means anything. Yeah. And we ruin it all. I mean, the ingredients we put in our food in this country is disgusting, and we eat it. Absolutely eat it. If there's more than fucking 3 ingredients to make bread, you only need 4, and there's 25 in a fucking pack on a nutrients. There's something wrong. Something really wrong.
Your bread lasts longer than a week. It's not
something wrong.
You know, we take this like production of food and of health and wellness out of the hands of our communities and put it into these few multinational giant companies and expect that they're just gonna like provide us with healthful food. And it seems like over time that has just gotten worse and worse and worse, and so has our health. You know, it's been
Well, then we misinform, right? And then we tell people like, yeah, throw this Miracle Grow on your garden at home, and you're like, man, I'm growing my own vegetables with 0 nutrient density and nasty disgustingness on there because you can spray it on and get rid of PM, and you don't realize what it's doing. And like, I don't know, that's huge too. Like I'm not saying everybody was misinformed, but it was definitely like not information that was given when like it's like all of a sudden it kind of felt like, whoa, we're kind of waking up to this. Like, what are we even eating right now? What are we even
even like
drinking
the
right
Roundup
now?
stuff, I mean, they just lost a huge monumental court case, and even after losing that court case, you could still go to the store and buy Roundup, and people are still like looking at a yard of dandelions like, what's wrong with you? Why would you have weeds?
I just let my shit grow now. Whatever's growing. I mean, I don't put pesticides or anything. The last 3 years, and I'm like, I don't care. Whatever grows. There's grass growing. There's clover growing. There's dandelions growing. They die and they go back in the ground. My lawn looks great. It's green. It looks fresh. Yeah, exactly. It's clean. Earl, am I right? You've been in my backyard.
The lawn looks great.
I don't weed anymore. I just let the shit just do its thing. I
dig it out.
That's it. But I don't even care. I just let it do its thing. Mushrooms are growing in my yard all over the fucking place. That makes me happy. So speaking about that, Earl, I'm going to steal this question because we got to move on. So is cannabis or mushrooms a gateway drug? I say, to me, I'll give my fucking opinion on that any day, but I want to hear from Rachel.
So I actually think it's kind of fun because I do think cannabis is the gateway drug, and I think cannabis is the gateway to other terpenes and other valuable medicinal molecules. I think that without the high THC and cannabis, we wouldn't have ultimately realized all the other benefits in cannabis, and a lot having to do with all these terpenes and triterpenes and different,
what's a triterpene? Sorry to interrupt. What's a triterpene?
Carbon molecules in the terpene. They're named by how many carbon molecules they have. So there's like sesquiterpenes and monoterpenes, and it just has to do with their structure and how many carbons they have.
I know what monoterpenes are, but I thank you. I learned something from you today, even more. I love it. Thank you so much. So go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. And, going back to the pharmaceutical industry kind of heavily motivating every path of research and academic research, you can't just go to someone and say, I think reishi mushrooms might have really good medicinal benefits, like we should study this, because they're going to say, well, no one's going to give us a grant for that, so why would we study that? I mean, and maybe you'll find the person who will, but by far and large, this is the standard, like, well, unless it's going to get us, a publication where we can potentially have something new, something patentable, where is this really taking us? And so you see a lot of other countries taking the lead on these things, Japan, India, China. And that's sad too, because sometimes a lot of this research just gets regarded as like traditional Chinese medicine. Sometimes people will look at, TCM, but there's so much value there. I mean, we've learned the beta glucans, PSK, PSP, ergosterol, polysaccharides for prebiotics for gut growth,
Love me some pro and pre, the best.
Mushrooms are loaded with these, turkey tail can help your gut health because of those, prebiotics, these terpenes, these triterpenes are just in every mushroom that we've really recognized now more over the past, 5 years as being, I'd say, I feel like the past 5 years, mushrooms have really opened up a lot, in terms of people willing to accept their positive benefits, so we recognize lion's mane as being, like neurogenerative, like being neuroregenerative, will grow new brain cells, it'll be neuroprotective, all these things. And again, that's because of terpenes and triterpenes in that mushroom. I mean, these are the things that are working, like ganodermic acids. Ganodermic acids are from Ganoderma, reishi, all these things. They're triterpenes, and this is what's getting studied now. And this is where I think we have such a cool potential, because there's just all these different wellness promoting molecules in the world. And, going full circle, I mean, this is why we need to work so hard to conserve natural areas and, biological specimens. We need to work to keep these things thriving and living, because they are our life. These things living give us life and health.
Let me ask you a question real quick about is it true that mushrooms, they're only on top for a hot minute,
Yeah.
It's what's underground is what they connect to, like everything. I watched that show about mushrooms on Netflix, and it was like amazing. I was really stoned too, and I wish I was on DMT watching that part when they were showing the mushrooms, the mycelium, right? Is that what it's called? The lines that go through, yeah, and it goes into these trees and it goes into other plants, and they're a connector. I feel like I'm a connector. I understand what a connector is.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are networking, and they're networking, connecting all the other living things in the ground to one another and feeding one another.
Yeah.
And they do so much more. They do that for plants too. They make channels under the ground. They aerate the dirt for plants, for roots. They'll take, if you have a very healthy field that's very fungally active, you can get water from one area to another area. So you have one area that's kind of flooding, and it can take water through these passages to other plants. Like, it's crazy some of the stuff they have found, and they have been finding that people don't really recognize with that. Going back to those grants you were talking about, almost like they don't believe in it. I feel like that's a problem with our community too. I feel like in general in the Western community, we don't really and maybe it was just around me, but especially growing up, it was like that stuff was not. It was like people were like, oh. Yeah, you wouldn't ever talk about a spice and herb, but it was always pills. Yeah. It was always medicine. It was always take a spoonful of this. It wasn't sugar, although sugar is
right.
drug and killing us now. But I'm just saying. Do you
we can
think
all sing
that...
it. We can all sing it. We can all sing it for you, Earl, if you want us to. A spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. There you go. There's my Mary Poppins for you all. Topic,
but there's a newer Mary Poppins, and it's kind of creepy. It's kind of weird and different. I don't know if you've seen it.
I can't believe they got a new Willy Wonka coming out. I'm like, this is number 4. It's like the original is still the best, but the other two are meh. And this one, no, it looks kind of interesting. Go ahead. Sorry, I went off topic. Sorry.
Do you think that, and hopefully this isn't too personal a question, that there's more judgment coming from like a mother's community and from like a child's like dealing with children? Like, because I've never had that experience. When you say, like, if you were to say, oh, I'm going to take some mushrooms for my bellyache to somebody, that's one thing. If you were to say, I'm going to give my child some mushrooms for a bellyache, do you think that it's like more highly, what would that be, like stigmatized, or do you think they're coming around a little bit there?
I think there's a certain stigma, but I think more than stigma, there's just this like automatic way that we have of doing things. Like I remember one time my son was small and I took him to the doctor and he was crying. Something hurt, maybe his ear hurt, and the doctor said, well, I can still see all the margins around his eardrum, but, it did look a little red. So I don't know. Here's a prescription. And I was like, well, why are you giving me this prescription? Is there an infection? And the doctor was like, well, and I'd actually just read a journal article about how most ear infections in kids weren't from bacteria. They were like other causes, and most antibiotics didn't really actually help with it. So I kind of wanted the doctor to tell me, like, did he find a bacteria or something? And I thought, like, surely this doctor has read this article, it's just, you assume everyone knows what you do. You assume that's the normal thing. And I was like, well, why are you giving me this prescription? And he's like, well, because people that come here, they want they come here, they want something. So here's your prescription. I was kind of like, I didn't come here for a prescription. I came to make sure my kid's eardrum wasn't bleeding. I can't see that. I'm not a doctor. I'm here for your advice, but I also don't want to just be placated. I just don't want you to soothe me because I'm upset, or give me something to satiate me so I can walk away saying, okay, I feel better now. I think that's the biggest thing for parents, is that guilt of, I did something. I need to do something. My child's upset. Something's wrong. I need to do something. And sometimes that's just what it is. You just have to let it run its course. Sometimes you can do something and it's still going to run its course,
Your body does have a natural immune system to fight things off.
Yeah.
It does. It does. That's why, 100%. That's why your body, but if it gets too high, that's an issue. Then yes, I get it. But 100, that's your body fighting something off. It's going to burn it out.
And there's, again, been numerous articles and medical journals written about that too. Lowering a fever isn't necessarily the best way to fight the illness itself, to fight the bacterial infection, to fight whatever is actually going on in your body. They say your body is raising its temperature to try to kill this thing. Right. So let your body raise its temperature and kill it. I mean, and I don't take fever reducing agents. Like, again, unless, my fever was over like 103 or something, or 100,
right.
I would,
100%. That's the limit right there. That 103, 103.5 is like that. You're going in an ice bath or something, or we might be going to the hospital. You're at that level where we're not saying that. We're saying
brain damage can happen, and you need to be mindful of that.
100%.
And I think that's, with a lot of this stuff, you just have to be mindful. But I think for a long time, there's a lot of doctrine, there's a lot of dogma, there's a lot of, from back in the day, there's a lot of just trust the doctor, trust the scientist, trust everything that's being done. And I think when we say that we shouldn't trust those things, I think there's this feeling like we're attacking doctors and scientists. And I don't think that's a fair thing, because all these people at the end of the day really want to help other people. They want to help the planet. They want to help other humans. They're really usually really good people, and I think it's this institution, the administration, this giant medical industrial complex where doctors feel like they don't really have as much impact on people's lives, and their opinions aren't even valued because they can only say what, they're allowed to say. They can only do what the protocol is for this illness, based on either what the insurance company is going to pay for, or what, your institution is willing to let you do for liability reasons. I mean, I just feel like it's not what it used to be. It's just very automated. That's how medicine feels to me at this point in time. Very automated.
Yeah. I mean, it's just so tough. It's so tough because there's a lot of people out there that believe in everything that they hear from their doctors, and there's a lot of people that don't believe it, and there's some people that are in the middle, and it's tough to, because in this country we were taught one way. Now the internet took place, and you can find out so much knowledge. Most people then go to the library and read the encyclopedia, and research. They believe everything they saw on TV, or they heard in the radio, or they heard from a family member that read an article. I'm not saying all that stuff is wrong or right. It's indifferent. But what I'm saying is, though, there's so much more out there that we don't know, that we're just learning now. Because a lot of it's been hidden. A lot of it hasn't been taught. There's so many cultures out there that teach medicine in a different way to heal your body, and you don't need all the pharmaceutical drugs to heal stuff that is making your body need it, kill it, but killing like antibiotics. Man, I haven't taken an antibiotic in a long time, and the only way I would take an antibiotic is I absolutely need it. If I got a freaking cold, I ain't taking an antibiotic, or a fever, or the flu. I just stay home for 4 days and knock it out of me, and I get that shit out of me quick. I don't fuck around. I pile all the shit in my body to get rid of that, all the stuff that's going to fight that naturally, to the point where it's like I know exactly how to beat that flu, and I knew how to beat COVID, and I got it, but I knew how to get rid of it quick out of my body. Everything I was piling in my body to fight everything you could possibly think about. I was back out on the feet in 3 days. It knocked me out. I was beat for 3 days, but there's ways that we need to learn that it's not always about going to the doctor to take a pill. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. And there's a lot of support that you can give to your own body, right? In terms of, let food be thy medicine, it's so simple. Things like leafy greens, if you're low on iron, sometimes you might be low on iron because you're low on copper. And if you're low on copper, you can eat leafy greens because chloroplasts have tons of copper, and that's what you need for the other, it's so simple, but we've gotten so far away from it because we've been so busy. And, right now everyone wants to package things and give you this nice little package of something, and it's so easy and it's right there. And it's hard for people to sit down and make a real meal with real vegetables, and it's expensive because it costs a lot of your time to do that,
Oh yeah. What's the research on taking Tylenol while being pregnant?
There's been a lot of research now about Tylenol leading to increase in ADHD and also autism while being pregnant, which is kind of stressful because when I was pregnant, like I worked with a lot of doctors at U of M, and they would just say, you know, just take Tylenol. It's fine. It's like the safest thing out there. And I always thought it was weird that everyone thought Tylenol was so safe, knowing that, you know, it causes liver toxicity, and, you know, the LD50 of it is pretty low, like compared to other things, you know, like you can actually kill yourself on a kind of small amount of Tylenol. You know, I mean, it's your liver shuts down. I mean, it's like, I don't know, 8 or 10 times the dose or something like that. But I mean, you can shut your liver down off like a really small amount of Tylenol, considering, you know, what other overdose numbers are. So yeah, I mean, I can't believe that. I don't know, you know, like, and natural things aren't always a cure-all, right? Like mint families can cause complications in pregnancy. So you really need to know what you're taking, you know, and you need to consult someone who is like very educated and knowledgeable in those things, you know, a midwife, you know, a naturopath, your actual medical doctor, to see if there's any sort of interactions. But I mean, at this point in time, you know, and there's a pill for everything. You know, when I was little, I used to get leg cramps, and there was a pill called Legatron, and it would get rid of my leg cramps. And I don't know what was in it, but it was taken off the market. But now, you know, my son gets leg cramps from running around, and I make magnesium body butter and I give it to him. And I just rub magnesium cream on his legs. And his leg
Man,
cramps.
where were you? I want you to be my mom. I want you to be my mom. It was
like,
dope as fuck.
I feel like we knew all this, and we just somehow lost this knowledge. You know, like your muscles need magnesium, and the best way to get it is transdermally. So put it on your skin, you know, that's why we do Epsom salt soaks when you have, you know, sore parts, you know, because you're getting that Epsom, that magnesium in. Just like plants.
Do you think we're this way?
Or CalMag.
Because we don't have the research? Or do you think that this is something like on the doctors a little bit?
I think
the doctors are,
I think it's both.
scared.
I think it's both. Just in the way that, you know, like commercial cannabis kind of pushes cannabis law. I think, you know, pharmaceutical companies, medical lobbyists, you know, pharmaceutical lobbyists, all these things kind of push that. And the doctors, I mean, after working with enough doctors, I feel like they are so overwhelmed in their day-to-day responsibilities that they don't have a lot of time to keep up on every single thing that's out in every single field. I mean, most of the doctors that I work with were doing their own research, so they were constantly reading really relevant but really specific information on their own fields. You know, they had meetings all day. They had patients they had to see too. I think it's hard to expect them to keep up with that, and I feel like most of their duties anymore are like administrative. You know, I feel like most doctors don't even feel like they're like treating people all the time. I mean, and again, I worked in, you know, research at U of M, so that's like different than what someone would see in their everyday like clinical setting. Like it wasn't in a big research institution, but I mean, I don't know where it falls, you know, and there's different quality to research. You know, some things have more substantial data behind them than other things. I mean, I was kind of shocked. I went to my own, you know, regular physician for my yearly checkup, and I had like a little bit of a rash on one of my arms, and it would come and go. I'm pretty sure it was stress. Like it would come and go with stress. Maybe it was some like, you know, fungal thing or something too. I don't know. You know, a lot of it can be, where you have, you know, autoimmune reactions. And at any event, it was a very small patch. And I kind of had asked her, you know, I kind of mentioned it in passing. And she was like, well, what kind of like lotion do you use? And I was like, well, I don't really need lotion. You don't really use lotion. And she's like, oh, well, you should get like Lubriderm, or, you know, and the thing was, there had just been all these news articles about all of the chemicals in these lotions that weren't being detected, or the companies didn't know about, or after the fact, hey, maybe some of these lotions are pulled from the market and I'm like, why is she telling me? Like when I'm telling her, like, I don't get dry skin. This isn't dry skin. It's probably stress or something like that. You know, like, why would you tell me to use something I don't need, especially when there's been all of this health risk linked to it? And that was shocking to me, because I was like, didn't you just see that all this stuff has been recalled and, you know, had issues with it? Like, why would you be recommending that to me?
It's crazy that, you know, if your seatbelt, you know, in your car or something in your car needs a recall, because you know, right away, but they wouldn't get some kind of information like that on their desk immediately. If that's, I don't know, maybe I'm just expecting too much.
I mean, but then again, you have to know there's like all these, like, companies don't get to be as big as like Coppertone or, you know, these huge giant companies, Johnson & Johnson. They don't get to be that big without giant legal teams and PR firms and, you know what I mean? Like lawyers that, you know, would keep doctors from saying certain things. I mean, it was so bad that we had people who weren't allowed to, the people that certified our laminar flow hoods, they weren't allowed to tell us that a company was producing sub quality hoods, because if they told us that that company was doing that, they could get in trouble. Like people had gotten in trouble in their department for saying, we've repaired a lot of these hoods. It was like insane. It was like, I'm pulling teeth out of this guy trying to be like, so, well, like, what are you telling me? You know, is this hood going to break down? Like, you know, like, because how is it that you can't just give me that information? It's because there's a whole layer of litigation and legality protecting the pocketbooks, the investors, the trustees of all these giant corporations, you know, and it's amazing because that's how some great things get done, you know, and we have huge medical, you know, miracles and huge advances. That's how it gets done. But there's also this whole part of, we maybe shouldn't feel completely dependent on it for wellness all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. A lot of, I feel like most of it can prevent most of those reasons of going to the doctors. If you pay attention to the plants that you're using, how you're using them, the bad stuff that you're taking in, you know, your movement, your water intake. You know, if you pay attention to a few things, you can avoid most of that doctor time. In my experience.
Yeah. And I mean, like, if you go to the vet, what do they ask you? Like, what are you feeding this dog? Are you exercising him enough? You know? Yeah. And I feel like the doctor should be asking you, like, what are you feeding yourself? You know, are you getting sunshine? Are you exercising?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that can solve a lot of our problems. You know, sometimes I find I'm working too much at the computer or at the bench, and I've just been not drinking enough water and my body's all crunched over, and I do a few simple like movements just to kind of get things flowing, and all of a sudden I'm a new person, you know. Yeah. But if you let that go on and on and on, or if you have a job where you're working inside and maybe you don't get natural light and you are in all day, or you know, it happens fast, you know. It's
you just need like 10 minutes out of that, 15 minutes. Just go for a walk before the sun goes down or when the sun comes up. Just get that nice little go for a walk during lunch. We all sit down too much, you know. I need to be out and about, you know. I go, you know, I work from a desk part of the time of the week, and I know by noon, 1 o'clock, I'm taking my dog for a walk or going out back and playing with her for a few minutes, like 15, 20 minutes. Then I'll eat lunch and go sit back down. I might go take her for another walk. I take an hour just so I can stretch out the body. You've been sitting for 4 hours, 5, 6 hours sitting at your desk looking at a computer all day. It's just too much, you know. Got to go outside and breathe some good clean air and just go for a walk and get some sun, you know, and just move around, shake it out.
Look at the history of humanity, you know, like indoors is a relatively new word. You know, we used to be outside. If you look at houses, you know, built 60 plus years ago, I mean, the bedrooms were small. The kitchen was big, the bedrooms were small because people didn't hang out inside. They ate and then they slept and then they were outside all day, you know, working, doing whatever. And it's amazing that we all don't have to, you know, work all day every day to eat. You know, that's a modern miracle. But at the same point in time, like maybe the flip side of that is it doesn't excuse us from being mindful about our food or our health practices or what we do with our bodies. You know, we can't let technology be an excuse or modern things be an excuse for not taking care of ourselves.
Right. I eat kind of differently now since I'm older and since I'm not out on my feet walking a lot. You know, I mean, part of the week I am, but so I don't take in the calories that I don't use.
Yeah.
I take in just enough calories every day that my body needs. There might be some days I need to take a little bit more, but my body only needs this many calories for me. I'm not saying it's the right calorie intake for you, but I take the right calorie intake that my body needs to function throughout the day.
Well, and it seems like you are very aware and you pay a lot of attention about the calories that you put in your body. They're not lacking nutrients. You know, it seems like you're mindful to try to find nutrient-dense foods so that when you do eat, your body is satiated, you know, because you are receiving actual nutrition, you know, not just empty calories.
Right.
Your body's like, well, wait a second. Like, where's the magnesium? Where's the calcium? Where's all the things I need to do all my jobs, you know, for my cells to do their jobs, for my tissues to do their jobs, you know, all these things. Like, again, they're little tiny machines inside all of your cells doing all this. And without
midichlorians, my Star Wars geekiness likes to call it midichlorians.
I don't know, but it's cool, right? I mean, it's just amazing that our bodies can do all of these things, you know? That
100%.
Have an immune system that can learn things and remember.
I mean, I eat healthy 80% of the time, so 20% of the time I can fuck off and eat whatever I want.
it's a drop in the bucket, right?
I mean, I can do that. You know, I can 80% of the time. And Mrs. Weedman, she gets all like funny with me because she goes, "How do you do it?" I'm like, "I don't know. It's my head. I control my head. 80% of the time I eat clean, I eat healthy, I eat pretty fucking good. And then 20% of the time, because I reward myself, I work that work to reward myself at the end. And that's that fucking burger, not from, you know, I cook a nice burger on the grill, or, you know, I eat something that's shit, pizza or something like that, you know, that I love, you know. So I do, you know, to get that reward, you got to put the work in. That's how I kind of live, you know.
We don't bring it home. That's how we do it. We don't shop for it. So, like, I don't know.
I want to add, I think the younger generation of people right now, like the 20-somethings, you know, I think they are doing an excellent job trying to bring like farm to table stuff more prevalent, trying to get more into like permaculture and make more awareness of that. I mean, I know it's our generation too, but I feel like they're the ones really, like, as young people going back to those values, you know, not as people that are like phased after a life of corporate, whatever, you know, they're starting their life that way. They're like, no, this is what happiness is, you know, like living on the land, being outside, working, you know, and I think that's
it's the way to do it.
And the way to do it. Are going to be the people that support all the other communities and giving them nutrient dense food, you know?
Well, there's a lot more, there's just a lot more awareness, I think, now with all of this. It's almost like, I don't know how offensive people would take it, but like the California mindset, like, you know, and it wasn't too long ago, people were like, oh, those crazy Californians. But really all they were doing is eating organic and talking a lot of this same stuff with all their farms. It just wasn't something that, at least in my experience, where I was growing up, that wasn't something that caught on. Like, it was beef and corn and milk. It was just,
because those are big industries. You know, it all comes back to these like huge industries, like the beef. And when we grew up, 3 glasses of milk a day. You need to have 3 glasses of milk a day.
Bones were great.
You don't want to hear. I did a whole fucking talk on milk. A whole speech on milk, and people to this day look at me like I got fucking five. I did a whole speech like in front of a crowd on milk, and like we can probably talk about. I could probably give you an hour on milk. We'll talk after, but if you ever want to hear my talk on milk, anybody, call me up or meet with me. I'll give you the history of why you shouldn't drink milk. That's
why
just
you should not or should.
No, should not.
Yeah, yes.
You should not drink any milk from any. First and foremost, why would you drink milk from any other animal but your mother? There's the first and foremost, and you don't need milk. We're the only animal on this fucking planet, because we are part of the animal kingdom, that drinks milk after 2 years old.
Yeah. Yep.
And you drink it from the animal. First and foremost, there's 2 reasons why it's all fucked up and why you even sold a bill of goods. If you sell milk out there, I'm sorry. I love you. I get it. I love cheese. Fucking I eat cheese. That's my weakness in life is cheese. So, you know, culture. I like yogurt. You know, I get it. I like it for all that. Okay. I do. I just don't drink milk. It produces phlegm. It is so much wrong with this picture here. And you guys and gals and people and human beings out in the world, you need to understand something. All that other stuff I just mentioned, milk, desserts, ice cream. Yes, I love it. Give it to me. I'll eat it all. But you're doing it's moderation on that stuff. Okay. People drinking a gallon of milk a day. I know some people that drink a gallon of milk a day. What are you doing to yourself? You're 50 years old.
Right? But then you add in all the layers on top of it. Like, it's all, you know, most of these cows live their whole lives inside. They don't even go outside anymore. They're not eating grass, which means there's no beta carotene in their milk, which you can see if you actually look at like grass-fed milk versus like conventional milk. It'll look like yellow because there's beta carotene in it. And that's what cows make when they eat.
Well, when you're squirting the teats and you're getting milk in the bucket, getting a little squirt, it's not white. It's not pure white. It's yellow.
Because all of that. But then we homogenize it and we take all the fat out, which, I mean, the fat is really what's there to help you grow as an infant, right? As a child.
Add a bunch of sugar.
Yeah. And when we feed cows that grain, you know, they don't make the proper vitamins that prevent arterial sclerosis. So when you eat like cows that are healthy because they're eating grass, like even the meat, you know, you get this huge amount of vitamin K2, which inhibits arterial sclerosis, which we always attribute to fat, right? Like it's because you had too much fat, or it's because, you know, you had a bad heart, you know, like all these things. And it's really just, we've broken down our food system so much. We don't even know what's making us sick anymore.
Well, there's so much antibiotics in that meat you're eating, and in the milk you're drinking.
Eat the grain, they get sick.
It's fucked up, isn't it? Anyway, Earl, go ahead. Go to the next one.
Oh, sorry.
No, I'm just looking at the time. I can go another whole hour talking about this stuff. This is like I said, this is my wheelhouse we're talking about. I've studied nutrition and health and all the stuff you're talking about for a very, very long time. Very long time. I'm just as passionate about what we're talking about as I am about cannabis. So, I mean, I love it. So, but I don't want to hold you up. So go ahead, Earl.
So, I know we don't, you know, we're not doctors saying don't do this, don't do that. But do you think that there's, you know, in this lesser side effect, do you think there's a way for this medicinal industry to go besides the medical industry right now? Or do you think that it's kind of like one or the other?
I think it's tricky. I mean, personally, of course, I don't see why they wouldn't be hand in hand, side by side. But again, it's this like huge industrial complex where we have, you know, where we've created so much disease that we require so many doctors and specialists. You know, you go to a doctor, oh, my knee hurts. Well, here's like 6 specialists that can see you. You know, you're the arthritis specialist, the room, you know, all these different people. And that's like what doctors know. Like they know how to write prescriptions. They know how to write referrals. If you go see a surgeon, they know how to cut you. These are the tools they use. And these are the tools they've learned to use. Just like if you go to a certain tradesman, they're going to try to solve your problem with their toolbox because that's what they know. And so either we need to scale back the amount of illness that we like push on people, right? And scale back the amount of like doctors that we need for them, because otherwise, like what would all of these people be doing if the population was actually well again, right? Yeah. And I think teaching this maybe is some sort of wellness training, you know, like going into some of these studies of different, you know, because it is a different world now than it was 50 years ago. We have all this research. We have all this data. We know that these molecules are there. We know a lot of times what they do, you know, and we know where they're found. We know what plants, and so this wellness, you know, it'd be nice to see a wellness attitude taken towards that. You know, part of the reason that, you know, I even started doing the mushroom stuff was when I was pregnant, after I had my child, I had a really hard time producing enough milk. And it's a really stressful thing for moms, right? Like you feel like you just need to be everything for your child. And I mean, I'd ordered some herbs online, nothing worked. And I went to this like little local store in Ann Arbor here, and one of the women was a midwife, and it was her knowledge, her wealth of knowledge. And she brought me to a brand and told me, try this brand. And I kind of looked at it and I was like, well, I've already tried this herb and it didn't work. And she's like, well, try this brand. And it was a totally different way that they prepared it. And it helped me a lot. And I think, you know, the people that have this knowledge, you know, either how to use these herbs to support your health, how to prepare them. You know, I think these people are so valuable, and I think we're going to need to see a push back from that. But I think the medical industry is going to kind of collapse upon itself, because you're going to end up, all the people that are actually altruistic, that want to help other people, they get taken advantage of by administrators because they will do the right thing. And administrators can squeeze every last dime out of them. And these people aren't going to stay in these capacities, you know? And so you're going to get people that are like, oh, well, I'm going into medicine because I want to make money. And that's why they stay there. And the people that went into medicine because they want to help people, they're getting out. And so eventually I think you're just going to have a world of medicine that people aren't going to want to interact with, because it's just going to be horrible. You know, there's going to just be this dead end kind of, well, this is what we can do for you. If you don't like it, too bad, you know, and you're going to get more support, wellness support, health support from, again, like the amount of younger people that have just like embraced mushrooms is amazing, you know, and it has pushed a lot of this research, you know, it's so cool to see, you know, like cordyceps, ganoderma, you know, reishi, like all these different, you know, Anatidus obliquus, you know, the chaga mushroom, like all these different things, you know, like we're going to see people giving those to you, you know, giving you things to help support your wellness. And then, like you said, you don't need a doctor at that point. You know, I mean, if your arm gets cut off, you know, that's, you know, if something really traumatic happens, that's where Western medicine shines, you know, like, let's do that, you know, or, or you're just tremendously unlucky. You know, you're born with some heart defect and you need a new heart, you know, like it's amazing that we can give people a new heart. That is where medicine shines. And that is where we need to be like, this is amazing, you know, but for everything else, I mean, for this general like wellness, you know, I think we need to look back into like where wellness comes from. And like you said, I think it's like our food, it's our air, it's our water, you know, we need to be looking into those things.
Yeah, I mean, we poison our water. I mean, it's crazy. We add fluoride to it, and fluoride's been known to be a killer. Yeah. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I'm so stoned, and I can really go into it. Yeah, 100%, 100%.
We need this for cavities.
Yeah,
it's crazy, right?
It just confuses the fuck out of me. But
it's this accepted dogma. It's, you know, like these chains of doctors, these chains of dentists that just keep teaching the same things, you know, and that's why I always kind of like really hope the younger generations stop those things where they start, you know, and are like, hey, actually you're wrong, and have the, you know, can call out some of these people, you know, because there is more data to support them at this point, you know, so I hope that's what happens.
I mean, I keep on telling Mrs. Weedman, my dream is to buy my own farm, not big, but enough. It's got to have water on it. It's got to have, I want my own well, but it also has to have a pond, or it has to have a stream going through it. I want at least 5 to 20 acres, and I want to grow my own farm, have my own chickens, and, you know, do my own thing. And then so I can feed myself and the people I love and care for, you know, and that's just, I don't trust what's going to come down the pipe, you know, and clean water and air and trees and good grass and a good land. I mean, you got to all think about that. And I see a lot of the millennials thinking that way, or the younger under 30 really looking that direction and going back to how people used to live, you know, and do it a little bit differently, because technology is a little bit better now and cleanliness is a little bit better now, but like really look into that. Expensive. Yeah, 100%, you know, and you can, if you can learn how to store your own food and ferment your own food, you can grow chickens and eat eggs. I mean, you get enough chickens. And then if you're into meat and you want to grow your own cattle and do that too, you learn how to properly do that. You can survive off yourself for the rest of your life. You don't need you don't need nothing, you know. You gotta learn how to fix some shit. Yeah, I mean, just the way it is, you know. You just don't trust what's going on in this world anymore, and it's upsetting, because you put all your trust in all that, because that's what you've been taught, you know. And what's the definition of insanity? Keep on just doing the fucking same thing over and over again with no fucking results. It just goes around in circles, and we're not fixing it as human beings in this world. You know, we're not fixing it. We just let governments and bureaucracies and fucking corporations just ruin it. You know, I mean, come on. I mean, look what happened in Ohio. I mean, look what happened look what happened, you know, all that water being poisoned. It's drinking water. You know, we've been poisoning our water for centuries here, you know,
and all the people that fish and all the animals that people hunt. I mean, it is catastrophic, the effects. Yeah.
Going all the way down. That river runs deep. It's not some small little where they could contain it. You know, it's fine. And all of a sudden just cut off the news. Flint, Michigan. Okay. You both live in Michigan. Okay. Here's the fucking thing. They still haven't fixed. I was in Flint. They still haven't fixed the water.
Still bottled water.
Right. What is what you're telling me? We spend billions of dollars on the stupidest shit, but we have people that live in this country, but it doesn't even matter about this, human beings without clean water still. And it's been how many years now? And you both live there.
There's in Ann
Not
Arbor,
in Flint, but in Michigan.
Dioxin plume from the Gelman Corporation that was here. And again, these companies, they just trade off who owns what part of them, what entity is owned by who. And, they have so many lawyers, they can just keep these things in litigation forever. And in the meantime, there's thousands of people affected, including water treatment plants. Same thing with that Tri-Bar Corporation up in Wixom that dumped all the PFAS in the Huron River. And that's one of those things that Vice documentary talks on when they talk about all of, the PFAS in the rivers and stuff. You can't
what's eat the say that again. What's a PFAS? So everybody knows. I don't know what that, I've heard of, but what is it again?
So PFAS, it's like polyfluoral, alkylfluoral. It's a chemical that basically is a forever chemical. So it's used in Teflon coatings. It's used in fire retardants. So like a lot of northern Michigan is affected where there's different Air Force bases because they would spray this stuff, I guess, a lot around the bases. But it's also used in chrome plating. And there's a lot of different forms of it. And not all of the forms are mandated the same. So there may not be limits set for every single form of PFAS. So there may be some forms that are set and some that aren't. But I mean, these companies, they use it for chrome plating. There's a company in Wixom that they would just dump tons of this stuff in the Huron River. There was like a story. The guy, I think they silenced the alarm like 300 times in one night or something. Because the alarm is like, hey, there's PFAS being dumped into the wastewater.
Right.
Because, the thing is that that wastewater then goes to your municipal water source. And municipal water sources, they're there to deal with human waste, not chemical waste. They don't have those sensors or capacities or filters,
And then all that water goes right back into the lake after it's been processed and cleaned, right?
Or back to your faucet. Back to your faucet, yeah.
Right.
And yeah, it's just crazy that they're allowed to do that, that these things happen. Because again, like it's one company, it's one board of directors. And the Tri-Bar company, even like the story they were saying, well, we did a lot of stuff and the regulations used to be good. And then a investment company came in and bought that company. And then they stripped away all the people that, they made it more economically efficient by taking away all of those, we have to replace the filters so often. We have to do these tests. There's a person that manages this. Well, we don't need that person. We don't need to replace these filters. That costs money.
And you said it right. They didn't make it efficient to make it better. They made it economically efficient so they can earn profits on it better and put it in their shareholders' pockets because those are the ones that are actually controlling the company. So,
and that's the only thing that moves it.
Right. What does it look like with cannabis as an option in a hospital today? In other words, how should the medical industry be looking at cannabis? I know how I think they should be fucking looking at it, but I want to hear what Rachel has to say.
I would hope that at this point, most of the medical community would recognize the tremendous benefits that cannabis has for a number of conditions. I would hope that at this point in time, the medical community can destigmatize it a little bit, and I think we have to get away from the drugs are bad kids, setup of cannabis. It's still highly viewed as, something like that. But I think as we start opening up some of these things for research and medical use, right? Like, around the time that I had my child, they were starting to let nitrous oxide into hospitals for women in birth to help them, in the birth stage. And yeah, it's like, okay, well, like once you start kind of like destigmatizing some of those things, or just instead of saying this is all bad and this is all good, if we start like teaching people how to think about things, like, well, this has good benefits, this has good effects, but if you, do have too much of it, or if you do this, or if you use it that way, then it doesn't have, or if you have this condition, and, I think I would like to see it destigmatized. I would like to see people recognizing the benefits, considering less people die of cannabis use every year than alcohol use or any other.
I'm talking about that on the next episode. I'm talking about that on the next episode of the Chronicles. Oh my God. I'm so glad you brought that up.
I think it's kind of shocking that the stigma is still like alcohol is socially amazing to drink. Like it's, look at me on my fancy glass of alcohol, but cannabis is so bad, and there's like literally again like no deaths, no overdoses, no, it's like helping your immune system.
I agree. I'm letting you talk on this one. I can go for another hour on that subject too, but we'll go. Come on, give me more. I want to hear more.
Yeah, no, I think it's absolutely crazy. You know, I mean, when I was younger, I always felt like if I drank a couple drinks, I wouldn't be in good control of myself, you know, and I didn't, you know, I'm not as strong as other human beings. And, you know, I'd seen bad things happen to other people. And it was like one of those things where it was like, well, I don't necessarily want to do that because I don't want to find myself in a place where I can't take care of myself or my friends. So when I was younger, you know, it felt safer for me to consume cannabis while my friends were drinking. And then at least one of us wasn't drunk. You know, one of us was still paying attention. One of us was still, you know, I don't know how to explain that, but I didn't feel like out of control, you know? And I think that when you look at that really from that perspective of like kids go to college and get so drunk, they fall over and black out. You know, like you can't. Yeah, it's the culture, but like,
it's all.
And that's viewed as okay. You know, that's just part of like growing up. I mean, kids die of alcohol poisoning, and that's tolerated, and yet cannabis is still stigmatized. And I think
most of the stoners that I knew back in college and in high school, they just hung out at their fucking house and played video games and smoked weed and hung out and listened to music. That was it. They never got in any trouble. They never. They just fucking hung out. You see them at a party, they'd all be chilling out by the car smoking a joint. I'd walk over, smoke a joint with them, and go on my merry way. You know, but it was like they just hung out in a fucking circle and smoked weed and talked shit. It was great. You know, never got into fights, never got in any trouble.
Nobody's getting in fights, beating each other up.
I never fucking got in a fight when I'm not drunk. I've gotten into plenty of fights being drunk, but not one. I don't like confrontation like that when I'm stoned. I get all fucking geeked out. You know, it's just like, whoa, you know, you ruined my high. I have a good high going. Now it's ruined. I'm in a good flow. Now you want to fight? No. Well,
it's the psychology of it. You know, when you're on cannabis, you don't have this false sense of reality, you know, which is, you know, they do all these psychology experiments, and it's the same thing that causes you after you have like 2 or 3 drinks to be like, I'm the best driver in the world. I should totally get behind the wheel of my vehicle. You know, like this psychology that happens to people where they don't feel drunk after a couple of drinks. You know, like that doesn't happen with cannabis. You know, you're like, okay, I've smoked a good, you know, and when I'm done, when I need more, I'll have more, and you know, I'm good for now. And it's not like you get this false sense of, okay, now I'm unbeatable. You know, nobody can beat me up, so I am just going to go out and do these crazy things, or you know, that false sense of. I can't think of the word. I can't think of it.
I could say this with weed smoking. You know, I know my limit pretty good. You know, I can smoke a lot, but I know like if I'm out and I'm in a circle, you know, puff, pass, puff, it comes around. You know what? I'm going to just pass it on this one. It'll come back around. I'll get it again. You know, sometimes you just do that. Remember that. Just you don't always have to say yes. That's the one thing cool about cannabis. It's not like someone's buying you a shot and you feel bad. If you're in a circle, you're smoking with a bunch of people. If you don't want it, pass it on. Fucking no one's gonna judge you. Fucking someone judges you because you passed it on, they're a fucking asshole first and foremost, and they shouldn't smoke weed with them people. So you know, but I mean 100%. I mean, I've passed up joints like going around maybe a second time. I might have passed on it again because I know my limit. You know, I want to be high, but I don't want to be too high. You know, I like being. Time. Yes. Yeah, you just got to know your limit. I mean, I like being, when I'm at home, it's a little different story. Then I don't pass. I puff, maybe puff, and then pass, you know, but I don't puff. I puff it at home. I got nothing to worry about. I'm at home. What am I do? Just fucking go to bed, eat a chip, you know, but when I'm out, you know, I got some place I want to get home safe, you know, and that's moderation. And that's just knowing your limit on shit. Same thing with alcohol. You know, I'll never say alcohol. I drink beer. I love beer, you know, and, you know, just know your limit. You know, even everyone trust me. Everyone's been there. Everyone's been drunk. Everyone's been fucked up. I've prayed to the porcelain god more than once. You know, I've passed out. Buddies had to carry me home. Yes, I've been there. Not saying that I haven't. Just know as you get older, you kind of know your limit. Yeah. You know where you're going to be at, and you know where you want to be at. You know, that's the difference. I don't like being out of control. You know, and that's where the younger generation's like, oh, I got my friends, I'm out partying, I'm gonna be out of control. Or someone's buying you shots all night and you just keep on doing them. And you you got to know when to say stop. Yeah.
You're not indestructible. There's the word.
Right. Yeah. So, man, we appreciate you, Rachel. I mean, coming on the show again. We love it. You. And Go ahead and give yourself a plug. But before we do that, purple weed, is it true that it can help stop fucking hop latent viroid disease?
So this
I couldn't wait to get you back on the show to ask you this. And Big Earl and I are going to talk.
Yeah, this is a really cool article that came up, and they were testing like weed that had, purple in it as, having less likely to show the signs of hop latent viroid and less likely to transmit it, I guess, but less likely to show those signs. So I think it's really interesting because, that purple color comes from anthocyanins. And so it's really interesting to know, again, like we talked about, all the other things other than THC in there. And it'd be interesting to know if these anthocyanins are somehow protecting it, just like they tell you to eat the rainbow, anthocyanins are purple. You're eating, purple foods, red cabbage, whatever. You could also be getting those protective effects, to help with just different oxidation, processes in your body, natural defense processes where your cells need those molecules to do things. So yeah, it's super interesting to see if that actually pans out and it can help with that. I mean, it's really promising. I think it's great just to see people working on the problem of hop latent viroid, recognizing that it's something endemic and we need to figure out a better solution besides just testing everything all the time. I mean, that's what we have and we're doing it, but it's a lot.
Yeah, I see a lot of finger pointing too going on the West Coast. People pointing fingers at one another whose fault it may or may not be. I think it's kind of fucked up. So, I mean, just chill out, everybody. Somebody will find a cure. Just don't fucking fuck shit up out there for everybody.
The finger pointing sad too, because people didn't know.
Right.
And I mean, the people that did kind of figure out something was going on, they did the work to figure it out. Dark Heart Nursery, I mean, yeah, they might have given it to a ton of people, but they ultimately did the work to figure out what was going on, right? And I mean, what else can you do? When you don't know
right.
what you don't know.
100%. I agree with that. You don't know what you don't know.
But now we know, so test your stuff.
Yes, yeah, and let's hopefully the purple beauty of the plant can fix things. The queen. So
yeah, that would be
pleasure,
fantastic. Phenomenal.
Yeah, pleasure to have you on. Go ahead and give yourself some plugs. Tell us where we can find you at.
Yeah, Deep Roots Cultures, Deep Roots TTC on Instagram and online deeprootsttc.com. I also do a lot of mushroom extracts and stuff under BG's Botanicals, and I have an Instagram for that too, where I find a lot of mushrooms and plants and show those things too. Just natural.
Ooh, you'll have to DM me that because I have to talk to Mrs. Weedman. I probably want to purchase some of your stuff. Couple of drops will do me.
Yeah.
Nice.
Did you see any ghost pipes yet?
I have seen them come up. They're really young in the places I've seen. Nice. But yeah, they're gorgeous. And again, that's cool because it's a plant that has no chlorophyll, and it's in a relationship where it tricks trees into thinking that it's a beneficial mushroom, and so the trees will give it nutrients and let it live because
a surviving kind of plant. I like that, or fungus, or a mushroom, or a plant. Okay.
But it has no chlorophyll. It's completely white.
Wow. Send us some. Will you DM us some pictures?
Yeah, absolutely.
Love it. Well, where else? Anything else we can find you?
At this point, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, in the woods, you can find me in the woods. In the lab. When I'm not in the lab, I'm in the woods. There you go.
I love it. Well, Big Earl, what a great show, brother. I'm baked, man. Yeah. That GG4 is fucking fantabulous, brother. I'm baked.
Yeah. You know what's crazy? Not to I know everybody always talks about it and says it. That thing tested about 18% THC, and it gets you about as high as any other weed you ever fucking smoke.
Mrs. Weedman, I love it. I told you what I did. I told you what I did. I took the extra. Because I'm a pig, because I know good weed. And that was fucking fantastic. I'm baked. And I love being baked.
Crazy.
Whew. Well, I love it. So what'd you do to that weed, though, to get it where it was at?
Me?
Yeah, what'd you not forget to put in?
CalMag on it. I sprayed a bunch of CalMag on it. And voila.
Gave it some love.
Yeah, exactly.
We love you out there, everybody. Don't forget the CalMag. Peace! Check out our cannabis lifestyle brand online at 8decades.com. Our custom smokes and accessories are perfect for your coffee table, bedroom nightstand, or kitchen counter. They're designed for you to show them off. The Canna community is also loving our hemp and cotton blend t-shirts, sweatshirts, scarves, and hats, finished off with our 8 Decades logo. We've got some awesome long-lasting goods that will be your favorite for years to come. 8 Decades, because a 9th decade of cannabis prohibition isn't acceptable.